We're at Penn Park, Albemarle County, and we're here to visit the slave cemetery that we have just recently found out that may be some of our ancestors, the Waller family and Wormley family.
I was contacted, I guess it's almost 2.5 years ago now, by a descendant of the Gilmers and asking about the cemetery, and I didn't even know this was cemetery here. Came out and walked, you can see just to my right behind me, saw outside of the walls some depressions in the ground which seemed to be indicative of unmarked graves things I've seen in the past. And we at the city got an archaeological firm involved and did some ground penetrating radar and identified where we're standing possibly 40 or more unmarked graves that we believe are very likely, if not certainly, those of individuals who had been enslaved at Penn Park.
So I think I got into a Zoom meeting at some point with Jeff Werner with the city planning office and learned about the report that had been conducted through his office outlining information from an archaeological ground penetrating radar survey out here. And from that report they uncovered evidence of about 40 to 50 burials.
We know there's 3 rows of burials that we identify with the ground penetrating radar. We believe there may be more graves that extend further down this hill, which is going downhill to the east towards the Ravenna. We've been able to determine names of people who were enslaved on this property and been able to establish some family lines that indicate who currently might be descendants of, if not folks that were possibly buried here, certainly individuals that were enslaved here. And it's been a really remarkable experience trying to piece that together.
One of my son's friends made this book for him, and it has 3 generations in it. So it says the Waller family. My son is a Waller, but I married a Stevens.
The first Waller would be Alexander Waller, which was John Gilmore's father, and that's 1831, it says.
And then it has Susan Wormley.
1860 is the year they have for her.
So the Wormley family came from Penn Park, and then Susan Wormley married Alec Waller in 1883, and then they had a son named John Gilmer Waller, who died in 1952. I'm not going to find a document saying we went out and buried so-and-so Wormley in grave number 6 today, but what I can tell you is that I'm pretty sure the Wormley family was at Penn Park during the George Gilmer ownership.
The fact that the Gilmers and the Cravens and the Hotops are very important family names in Albemarle and Charlottesville in our history and have had books written about them. You can Google them, you can find all kinds of information about them. But that their enslaved population, their workers that are buried here in this cemetery right next to them, have no information about them. That needs to be remedied. And in order for us to really understand our communities better, where we are now in the present, we have to understand our past better.
This is not just a cemetery. This is a landscape that people occupied and worked and were enslaved on and lived and died. And I think the city needs to, I hope we can take a harder look at this entire property and interpret it properly.